Hi guys, welcome to today's Creative Brand Chat. I am Devin Danielle. For those of you who don't know me, I help creatives like you build a personal brand that honors both you and your business. So real quick, I want to tell you guys why I started these Creative Brand Chats so that you kind of have a background into why we're doing this and kind of how the flow of today is going to work. And then I'm going to introduce Maggie, who's over there patiently waiting. So I created this space really for two reasons. And the first one was just because I was having a ton of creative virtual coffee chats with other creative business owners, just like Maggie. And every time I would leave those conversations thinking we should have recorded that, there was some like brilliance in there that somebody could have benefited from in their business. So I decided to do just that and hit record on our off the cuff conversations. And the second reason I started this space is because I spent the first year of my business really preaching that your brand is so much more than your logo. But I didn't really do a great job, I felt, of showing you all the different aspects that do play into your branding. So now I'm talking to creatives who are within the different realms of branding, or they're all in different factors of their businesses play into your overall brand. So today we're going to talk to Maggie Gentry from MaggieGentry.com, and we're going to talk all about marketing and how you can own your why in your business and your brand. So with that, Maggie, I'm going to have you jump in and introduce yourself and tell us your golden circle one sentence.
Thanks, Devin. Hey, guys. So I'm Maggie Gentry. I say that what I do is thought partnership and marketing strategy for creative entrepreneurs. My why is to create and hold space for others to discover their most innate desires. And I feel like that is broad enough for me to kind of live and grow and expand within those confines. But I think it also speaks a lot to what I do. It just happens to be that I do this through marketing strategy. But it happens that, the actual engagements that I do are one-on-one client engagements. And then I also have small group kind of intensive workshops, one-day intensives. So with those, it's all meant to be really intentional. I like the impact of small groups. I'm one of those people that if I walk into a networking event of 200 people, I freeze up and I don't know what to do. So I think that just for my preference, my learning style, I do better one-on-one or in a small group setting. And so I wanted to build a business for people who felt that same way.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And we're totally going to get into those small group workshops or intensives, I should call them, that you do because.
Yeah. Oh, here's my cat. I told you.
Oh, yep.
Sorry.
Guys, the cat's going to join the call with us today, and you might hear my dog Dave barking in the background. That's just how we roll here.
Sorry.
That's totally okay. So I want to pick your brain a little bit just to start off with, because I have a lot of clients and a lot of community members who when I ask, like, what's your biggest struggle? What do you feel like is the biggest thing like you need help with, or you need more information around when it comes to your business and your brand? And they will say, I know I need help with marketing, but I just don't know, like I feel like they don't know what to do or even like where to start with it, like what, I guess, like, just tell us like when you like what your take, I guess, like on the word marketing even is, just so we can get a better idea of how you view it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so hard because we're all just over inundated with information these days. And so I think you hop on social media or you hop on, the internet, or you get a few newsletters from people. And I think it's so hard to get around these like challenges, it's like 7 days and get 1,000 new followers or whatever.
Yes.
And so like, that is kind of my personal fight. I want to be the anti-challenge person because I think that can be overwhelming. And I think people perceive marketing as just social media, or they have to pay money, which technically if you're paying for an ad, then that's considered advertising. So it's kind of like this understanding that marketing is really this overall component for how your business is being perceived, how you are sharing your story with your target customer, even defining who your target customer is. So really, I feel the most basic way that I like to explain marketing is that it is a very basic thing of storytelling plus planning. So you have to know who you are, what you're doing, who you serve. And once you figure out what that is and you can create a story around that, which is your branding, your positioning statement, a lot of your branding exercises are going to fall into that storytelling piece. And then the planning is, okay, well, now because I've really figured out who my target audience is, where are they hanging out? So that means that I need to find ways to get in front of them. How often can I reasonably do that? And so that's kind of that planning piece. So that to me is the easiest way to think about it.
Yeah, I love that because it simplifies it. Like you said, it takes out, because I think sometimes when we hear the term, I mean, just like branding is a buzzword in itself. I think all of these things sort of become buzzwords and then they lose their true meaning. And so I love that it's like, okay, marketing in its simplest form is storytelling and planning. And it's like really just putting yourself in the places you need to be to talk to your ideal clients.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, then it's like, if you want to break it down, I think that I also, with a lot of the work that I do, I also like to think about it as introspective marketing, because I feel, again, with these challenges or I think my problem with kind of the fast track marketing routes is they're asking you to assume their definition of success. So they're saying, join this challenge so that you get 100 new newsletter subscribers. Well, maybe that's maybe that's really good for them. Maybe you already have a list of 10,000, so 100 new subscribers isn't really that great. Or maybe you're starting at 0. So I think that the first step is really taking a step back to determine what it is that you really want to do. What are your goals? How are you defining success? And then from there, you can kind of create this plan to help you kind of
move in that direction.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. Because I'm even thinking back to like when I first started my business, I knew, I just was like, okay, I got to start blogging because, I don't know, that's what everybody's doing. Like I got to start blogging. And then at some point during my business, I was like, it's taking me 16 hours plus to put a blog post out there. Like, is blogging really where it's at for me? Like, is it really what I want to be doing? And then, I mean, that's again, like why these were born, because I'm like, I love just chatting with people and like picking their brain and figuring out like what's going on in business. So, so then but it took me like, I want to say like 2 years of running my business to realize like, wait, like that isn't like you said, that's not my version of success. So like, what does my version of success look like? And where are my people and how do they want to hear from me?
Yes. And I think it's hard because again, with all this stuff, depending on what article you read, it's like, okay, you've got to be blogging 2 to 3 times a week. You've got to be posting on Instagram 1 to 2 times a day. Same with Facebook. If you're on Twitter, God forbid, it's like at least 5 times a day.
Yeah.
That just, it feels so overwhelming. And my whole philosophy is that no, you don't have to do that. The people that are saying that, these are for brands that have teams that are doing that, and that's all they do. But when you're a small business owner and you're having to wear all of these hats, it's about finding that balance of what can you do that gives you the most bang for your buck, that you love doing because that's the stuff you're going to stick with, and also is meeting your customers where they are. So it's kind of like looking at all of those different facets.
Perfect example of less is more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And everything you're saying, I'm just like, yep. Because I had a conversation yesterday. I had a brand intensive and I was talking through their content with them. And I'm like, okay, where do you really love showing up? And she's like, well, I'm on Instagram every day, but I have Facebook, but I haven't posted in like a year. I have a blog, but I don't know. And I'm like, okay, what are you like jazzed about sharing? Like, what can you like not shut up about when you're talking to someone? And she's like, oh my gosh, this. And I'm like, okay, you're going to write about that. Like, where do you want to share it? And so, and like, where are your people? So I love that that's what you're saying too, because I feel like that's something I have a newsletter that I have kind of reworked in like every quarter now, just because the response I got was insane. And I sent out, basically I was saying like exactly what we've been talking about. Like, why do you feel like you need to make 6K in a month? Why do you feel like you need 1,000 subscribers on your newsletter tomorrow? Why do you feel like you need to post on your blog once a week? Like, these are all deadlines or expectations that, have you given them to yourself, or have you just taken on everybody else's expectations? And I think it's such a great reminder to tell people like, hey, you can set your own deadlines, your own expectations. You can show up where you want to show up, when you want to show up, and just like to figure out what's right for them.
Yeah. Well, and then I think, we have to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and owning your own business is so hard. And so you have to do all the things all the time. And so finding those kind of sweet spots. So if you really hate Facebook and your audience is not on Facebook, then why are you wasting your time doing it? And so it's like just finding the nuggets of like where you want to be, where you enjoy the most. And that's the stuff that you'll go back to, and also kind of sidetrack. But the other key to marketing, and I always preach this, is staying consistent. It is the easiest thing for me to say as a piece of advice, but it is the hardest thing to do in practice.
Oh yeah.
And so when it comes down to it, I always talk to my clients and I'm saying, so if you have to do this week in and week out, what can you commit to? And that's where it starts. So gotta keep it consistent.
I love it. That's what I preach. The same thing, even with branding. I'm like, the thing is like the number one thing that's going to get you the most success is showing up consistently, because that's what's going to build trust with people too. If you're there and then you're there for a month and then you're gone for 3 months, people are going to be like, okay, is she still in business? Like, she hasn't posted since 2015. I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, I love it. So that's like, I feel like for anyone out there listening who is hates their blog and they hate their Facebook and they hate all these things, like ditch it. Like, figure out if you really, really need it, or maybe you need to change what you're sharing on that platform. But if you don't love it, ditch it and go to the place that you do love. I'm giving you permission.
Exactly.
I deleted my Facebook page and my Facebook group, and nobody died.
That's right.
I still have clients. We're all good. We're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I'm like, I love that you're preaching this right now, because these are like all the business mistakes I feel like are like especially like marketing in general mistakes that I have made for the first, like, it took me 2 years in my business to finally like figure this out. So if anyone is like in that space, like, don't take 3 years to figure it out. Like, do it now.
And
do
also whatever is your schedule now doesn't mean that it will be that way in a month, in a year. As you continue to grow as a business, maybe you have a team one day, then things can change.
Yeah.
So, but I think, for right now, it's like, what can you physically, mentally, emotionally handle right now?
Committing to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So tangent. Well, I mean, it was a good tangent, but all about marketing. So I want to dive into, a little bit more of one kind of part of marketing that I know you preach, and that you do with your Own Your Why intensives. Tell us about like what you, just cause like I see you on Instagram sharing about the Own Your Why intensives. I see the clients that have been through that program with you, just like loving on life, like loving on how much it's helped their business. So I want to hear more about that from you, and how owning your why, how that impacts your overall business and your brand.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I feel kind of what we've been talking about too. I just feel really strongly that if you're owning your own business, you did it for a reason. And the beauty of being your own boss is that you can make the rules. And also, I think, again, kind of what we're talking about of being so distracted with a lot of information, it's really easy to get off path because you think you're going down this route because for instance, blogging just because everyone's blogging right now, or creating an e-course because everyone's creating an e-course, or being on Insta stories because that's where everyone is. I mean, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with any of those, but I think it's much more impactful to take the time to figure out what it is that not only you need as a business owner, but what you as your business needs. So it's looking at, it's taking the intensive, it takes an entire day for you to really sit back, have the time to think, to really reflect, and understand what it is that you really want for your business. So it's taking the time to really figure out, what is this guiding force? What is your true north, your why? And once you can try to define that, then it becomes easier to make any other business decision, because you always go back there. So down to, do I want to be doing this partnership or collaboration? Is this next launch the right move for me? Do I want to post that thing on Instagram? So anything from a really big business decision to a really small business decision, I think if you have this guidepost, it makes it so much easier.
I love it. It's like your compass. That's our,
Exactly.
I always talk about like your, with branding, like how you need to know, like there's certain things you need to know that are going to guide and they're going to be a factor in every single decision you make. And I mean, your why is one of them. So I love that even with the Own Your Why intensives, you're literally creating space for people to focus on their business instead of kind of get out of the rat race and recenter with like what they want and who they are and why they started their business and why they're keeping cracking at this business every single day when sometimes it's easier to peace out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole idea. So, I mean, I always like to start there, and I always start it because for me, when I was trying to go through this process for myself, it took me like 2 or 3 months, and I was journaling every day, and every day I was writing a different variation of my why. And finally, it really took me a few months. And then after that time, I went back and reviewed all these different variations and then kind of whittled it down. And I'm not saying that it's going to take 2 months for every person, but just understanding, giving you the permission to have that time to write a few different variations, understand that it may take you longer than just that day, but hopefully you have the kind of structure and permission to explore. But it's starting there, finding that first, getting yourself in that headspace, and then going through all of these marketing fundamentals, but keeping that at the forefront as you learn about how to appropriately analyze your competition and how to really talk about what you do, and to really get down deep into, okay, well, how am I pricing myself and what does that say about me? And the very last thing is kind of the promotion piece, which most people think of as marketing, but it's all this kind of background work before you get there.
I love it. Oh, I'm like feeling the parallels, like just with the branding process too. It's like totally the same because, people think marketing, they think, sales and promotion. Then you think branding, you think logo, website. And I'm like, hold up. Like, if you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing, like, I love that you're using the knowing your why as the centerpiece. And like every single thing comes from knowing your why. And something that I'm thinking of as you're talking, because as we're saying, okay, everything goes back to your why, that's probably so intimidating for some people. That's like saying to someone, well, you just have to figure out what your purpose is, And Danielle Laporte has this quote where she says, and I'm probably not going to do it perfectly, but it basically says, your purpose is whatever you say it is, because who can tell you you're wrong?
Yeah.
So I think that's just something I wanted to note with knowing, like discovering what your why is and using that. If you decide to know your why and use that as the center of everything, to not get hung up on it for like ever and never move forward. Because I feel like even as we were talking about it, I'm like, that's so intimidating to be like, this is my why and this is it,
Yeah. But I think it's also important so that's why, I mean, if I told you my why is my like golden circle, one sentence, but my why is to create and hold space for others, like in a nutshell. But that doesn't tell you, if I were to tell you that still, nothing in that says marketing or marketing strategy or one-on-one engagements, but it allows me, because anything I do needs to come from that space. And so again, understanding that if I want to do something, is it really creating and holding space for people? If it's not, I don't want to do it. And so that goes down to really trying to have meaningful conversations through Instagram content and, really aiming to keep my Own Your Why intensives really small. So, and then even just down to, I think people get caught up on like fancy titles. And now that you have the option to call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
Yep. Oh my gosh. You're like, I feel like you're calling me out right now, because I spent so long being like, I know you're not, but like in my mind, I'm like, I went through like brand designer, brand this, brand that. And I was like, am I a brand strategist? Am I a brand coach? Am I a brand like whatever? And now if you go to my brand strategy page, I literally say brand coach, brand strategist, brand blah, blah, blah. I'm like, call me whatever you want. Here's what we do. So I love that you're going into this right now, because I'm like, yep, that's another mistake I made.
Well, no, I don't think it's a mistake. I do think that people like get so caught up with it. But for me, it was kind of a fun experiment, because even on my business cards, I say like thought partnership and marketing strategy. And I always put thought partnership first. And I get a lot of questions about that. And the reason that I did that is because I wanted people to ask questions. I feel better in one-on-one conversations. And so I know that if somebody says, hey, what's that partnership? And then that gives me the in to say, well, let me tell you. And then I can go into it, versus any other marketing strategist or marketing consultant. If that's all I have, then I feel like I'm just another fish in the sea. Yes. So this feels like a little bit of a differentiating point.
I love it.
So
I love it. There's like so many tips in here, and I'm like my wheels are turning.
Well, and then I know we both love Simon Sinek too.
I was going to say, we need to go there, because everything, and that's like, I'm in here like, what's your golden circle one sentence? So yeah, I love Simon too.
Yeah. And I mean, so for those of you that don't know, do you have show notes?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I will link to it.
Okay, there's this one TED Talk that he did. I think it's called Start With Why, or that's his book.
He has, I'm trying to look at I don't have it right over there, but I have his book. Yeah, it's called Start With Why. And I think his TED Talk is the same thing.
I can't remember, but it sounds right.
Well, we'll post to it in the show notes. So,
but yeah, I mean, going back to that, it's just this idea of people want to believe in something, and they want to believe in you and believe in your story. And so you have to give them that. That's what people connect with. And they connect with you as a person, your story, your brand. And so that's kind of at the center of all of this, is really trying to dig deep to figure out, what is it that I want to say?
Yeah, I'm like, his quote is like going in my brain right now, and I don't remember it, but it's like, yeah, people buy from people who believe what they believe.
Or people buy why you do, not what. People buy why you do, not
why you do it, not people.
What you do. Why you do it, not what you do. Dang it, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna find both of those quotes. We're trying here, you guys. I swear, I like love Simon Sinek, but I'm like, I know he has amazing quotes, but I listened to it so long ago now that, yeah. We'll link to all of it, you guys, but it's an awesome TED Talk. And basically what I love from the thing that I remember the most from the TED Talk too is the example he uses, because he uses like Apple as an example, and he puts Apple in like the golden circle. So like Apple's all about like their whole business is centered around like why they do what they do. And then it goes into, you know, the what, the how, the who, like all of the other branches that play into your overall brand and your overall business and what you stand for. But everything goes back to that why. So, and he has so many good quotes in there that we can't remember right now, but they're awesome. So you guys will have to check that out. It's a good
I think it's people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. Yep. Yeah. And there's another one all about like people, that people buy from people who believe what they believe, or people, you know, that part always reminds me of the I have a dream speech. I don't know why, but okay. So, okay. Just so that we do, or that the people who are listening are like, if they're like, okay, so my marketing starts from knowing my why. It comes from knowing my why. Like that should be my North Star. Like what's an action item that they can take away from this? Like what's something that they can actually start doing to start discovering their why and start using that in everything that they do within marketing, branding, every decision that they make in business?
Yeah. So with the Own Your Why course, it follows that first, like deep introspection. And then from there, we go into kind of the frameworks of marketing, which I can go into in a little bit as far as like more action steps. But I think as far as what to do if you want to try to start finding it, for me, writing is how I think. And so that made sense for me. Sometimes I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert who's mentioned that, or maybe it was Brene Brown, who they didn't do their best thinking sitting and typing. They do their best thinking verbally, like speaking. And so they had to record it, or they had a friend transcribe for them. Maybe it was Brene Brown.
I was going to say, I feel like I remember reading that Brene Brown did this with one of her books, that she like had her team come, like they all went to like a cabin or something for like a weekend or something. And she literally like wrote her book by like talking about it. And then everyone around her was like writing or like pulling from the stories that she was saying. And
so it was her then for sure. But all of that to say is I think find your method of how you do your best thinking, writing, if it's speaking out loud. But I think this all goes back to just a personal practice of having a routine. So like I do this every morning. It's part of my morning routine to write in my gratitude journal. And so that's when I wrote the variations of my why. But there's a really great book that I love by Twyla Tharp, who is a choreographer, and it's called The Creative Habit. And so she says that every composer will start by sitting down and playing scales on the piano. He doesn't automatically sit down one morning and start writing this masterpiece. Every artist is going to start by warming up their hand and their brush just by getting a few brush strokes down on the canvas before they start actually working on their piece. And so it's like we all sort of need this warm up period. And so I think if in any way possible, if you can figure out what your ritual, routine, habit is for you to start your day. And I would incorporate thinking about your why into that part of your day. So not saying it has to be morning, it could be an afternoon walk in your slump. But find that element. How are you in the element when you feel like you're most like yourself and most creative? Sometimes I know when I'm driving, I come up with my best ideas. So I have a whole like voice memo log of all these ideas that I like record. So that would be the first thing, is just like experiment with different ways for what are you wearing? Where are you? And then once you kind of find what feels really inspiring for you, see if you can incorporate that into a daily routine.
I love that. And I love that you're saying like, find the time that works best for you too, because I know a lot of people, a lot of people preach morning routines, and I'm getting a handle on mine again and reworking it. But for me, like the best time for like the time of day that I come up with like blog post ideas and like, oh, I'm going to change my tagline to this and like all these awesome, magnificent ideas is when I'm laying down to go to bed at night. So my notes app is full of random thoughts and things that some I use and some I don't. So I love that. Like whenever you're in your element.
Yeah. And I think that's probably because if you're laying down to sleep, you're finally giving yourself a moment to rest. And so it's like, can you build in that rest in another part of your day? And so, you know, that's like, if you want to talk about meditation or, you know, whatever it may be. But still, even just having 5 minutes to breathe or have a stretch break, I think is so important. We're getting into like self-care and like all that stuff, which I could easily talk about too.
But that's awesome that is like that plays a factor into like discovering and establishing what your why is, because you wouldn't automatically associate that with it. You know, you wouldn't think like, oh, if I just like give myself 5 minutes to like do nothing, I might come up with what my why is. And that's like the basic build or the North Star, the guiding compass for everything. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also is tapping into like trying to find the time to tap into your intuition. And so it's like, once you're able to do that, then that will help you develop your why. And then once you kind of have, I think by developing your why, you're just becoming more in tune with what it is you inherently want, but maybe sometimes like don't take the time to really voice. But if you do spend that time in your most comfortable zone, then you're really kind of checking in and getting centered and being able to like really figure out what it is that you really want.
And I think the other part of that is like, okay, so like making space for it. And then also a thing that you said too, whether you're like, you were saying like, okay, you're in your car, you're recording it somehow. So whether you're like writing it down or you're saying it into your phone or you're typing in a notes app, like whatever you're doing, like making the space and then recording it.
Yes. Yeah. Because you want to be able to go back and reflect. And I think it's interesting too, to see, you know, how has it evolved? Even taking notes on energy levels or what you did that day. And so, I mean, knowing, this is also, we could get in, I'm like thinking moon phase stuff where it's like,
I know. I'm like, oh gosh, we're going to need like 10 more hours. So
I know.
All right. So let's stick with that. And we'll link to, Many Moons, which is the book that I started using now, or I started journaling and like paying attention to the moon phases a little bit more because I know you had the book, Maggie. So we'll link to that too. But that's another thing you could totally use to kind of tune into your intuition, which again helps you figure out what you really want in this world. And that's really what your why is all about, and figuring out what your version of success looks like.
And I think it's like maybe a more practical use is like just taking a second to pause and reflect before reacting. So thinking about, I mean, whatever happened, think back to whenever you're listening to this, like think back to your day. What was something that was an obstacle in your day that went, something that happened that was not according to plan? And then is there a way for you to kind of think of that obstacle as an opportunity? And also think of that obstacle as like, how do you want to approach it and which way around it and what path is the right way? And really taking a second, instead of just reacting to whatever that bad thing or negative thing was, really sit with it for a second. And I think through that act, sometimes you can figure out, and doing that enough, it's like you can start to figure out, okay, well, I keep feeling like this is the right thing to do. And, you know, listening to your gut is super powerful. So.
Which, like you said, we could totally get into it, but we won't.
I know.
Okay, so I want to respect your time and everyone else's time listening. So let's try and wrap it up a little bit. So we talked about, we got into marketing, we got into, why knowing, or that how knowing your why is crucial to every aspect of your business and your brand. And we also gave you a little an action step there to help you find out what your why is. So final question is, what is the number one thing that has impacted the success of your brand?
This is actually a great segue, because what I was thinking when you asked me this before is I honestly don't think that it's any one big change or big thing that happened. I think it is a matter of each day trying to get myself in the best mindset and taking just that next step forward. Because I think it is so hard. Entrepreneurship is very difficult. And I think that the highs feel higher and the lows feel lower. And so just giving yourself grace, knowing that it's just one more day, making sure that you're taking time to celebrate the wins and enjoying the journey. Because I think sometimes we're so focused on where we want to be and we're so goal-oriented that we're always looking to the future. And so I really try to take the time to focus on the present and be grateful for the process, the clients I have today, the work that I'm doing today. So I think just being grateful.
I love it. And that totally plays into too what you said before is like consistency. Like consistency is the number one thing that's going to get you where you want to be. And that's, I mean, part of the consistency is showing up every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it. And as you're saying the journey, I just had an email from someone who's like, I'm just starting my business. And I'm like, welcome on the entrepreneurial roller coaster. We are happy to have you with us. And I'm just like, oh, it's welcome. Like you're going to have so many, like you said, low lows and high highs, but it's going to be so worth it. So.
And I think, it makes it so much more enjoyable to have lovely friends like you and being able to commiserate and celebrate because it's just this wild journey that a lot of people don't quite understand. So it's fun to have a space to be and explore and share. So
yeah, and to know you're not alone.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I'm always, I'm all about my business besties.
Yeah.
I think everyone in my community knows I'm always like, my business besties, I just need to love on them real quick. One more question.
Yeah.
Where is the best place to find you online? Where can we learn more about you?
My website is maggiegentry.com. So that will have all of the info for me. My social media of choice is Instagram. So you can find me there at Maggie Gentry _. Those are my two main hubs. That's where I'm hanging out.
All right, perfect. And we will link to those in the show notes as well. So if you guys scroll down, if you are watching this on YouTube, if you click the link in the description, there will be a link to my blog where this video will live with show notes. And we will include Maggie's website there and also her link to her Instagram. So you guys can follow her, be friends. She's all about DMing. She's like, DM me, let's talk about your business. So you guys could totally have a one-on-one conversation with Maggie if you go over
take
on
me up on it
and DM her. All right. So if you guys want any more updates, if you guys want updates about more creative brand chats, or like I said, you just want show notes for this, everything lives on my blog over at devindanielle.com/blog. And the best place to get updates from me and to know when these babies go live is to get on my brand love letter list. So I will also be linking to that in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining us today, Maggie. It's been amazing talking about marketing and simplifying marketing in a more, looking at marketing in a calmer way. That's how I'll describe it.
I hope so.
Marketing in a feel-good way.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me record this creative conversation.
Thank you, Devin.
All right. We will see you guys all next time.
Bye.